Welcome back, everyone, to another Bearcats Bites interviewing our alumni. Today, I have as our special guest two-sport athlete Justin Starrantino, and I'm with us today as well. We have our interns here in the Sports Information Department. My name is John Neves, but we have as well today Christine Trimarco, Julia Catone, and Victoria Kissling, who will essentially be conducting this interview with me. Justin, thank you for coming on. I know you're a very busy man these days. Thank you.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Nice to see everyone, and nice to see you, John.
Justin Starrantino graduated from Baruch in 2016 with a degree in finance and investments with a minor in economics. Upon graduation, he accepted a job at Goldman Sachs, where he continues to work to this day. Justin was a two-sport athlete competing in men's soccer and cross country. With the soccer team, he was a starter on the 2014 CUNYAC Championship squad, and his 2 years on the soccer team, he won 20 total matches. That's a pretty good number for 2 years. In the fall of 2016, his competitive juices continued, and he ran for the men's cross country team that fall semester. Off the field, he was just as busy. He was president of both Baruch and CUNYAC SAAC for 1 year, and was also Baruch's representative for the very exciting trip in 2016, the CUNYAC Goodwill Tour to Cuba. Justin later came back to Baruch during the spring of 2019, where he was the guest speaker at our Athletic Varsity Awards dinner. Justin, thanks for joining us again.
Thank you for the intro, John. It's nice to be back. I'm getting goosebumps, thinking about some of those good memories you brought up.
That's what I'm all about, buddy. We're here to make you guys very famous. That's what this is all about. Let me get going with the very first question. So what was it like being a student athlete at Baruch College, your experiences?
It was very unique. I'd say being a student athlete anywhere, it requires a lot of, time management and a lot of different types of discipline, both in the classroom, because you're managing your work around not just, a normal college kid's life, but you're also managing it as a Baruch student athlete around interning, working, being really involved in different clubs and organizations. And then you have your second job, which is your sport, which, as many student athletes know, it's definitely a job.
What would you say is your favorite memory as a student athlete?
It's a good question. It's hard to pin down one. I'll mention a couple and then maybe be brief about each one. Winning the CUNYAC Championship with the men's soccer team in 2014, that was definitely, I think, the one that was most special, just because it was, a true team effort. It was something that allowed the team to sit ahead of three-peat. It was 3 consecutive wins, although I was only on the team at that point for 1 year. That was a really special moment, that championship game. We beat Brooklyn at Brooklyn. Another memory from that season, I played defense, and most defenders don't score too many goals. Before this, I don't think I remember the last time I scored a goal, but I scored 2 goals in our quarterfinal to advance to the semi. We were down 1-0, and I scored a header before half. It was a rainy game at Randall's Island. Celebrated with the team. It was really exciting. Went in 1-1, a lot of momentum into halftime, and then in the second half, scored a second goal, another header, both assisted by Danny Goldberg. And that when I went and celebrated in the stands with my father and my family. And to sum it all up, it was a really memorable and exciting time, because as a defender, not scoring much. And then the last and probably another really memorable moment was when I ran cross country, leading up to the New York City Marathon. I kind of used my last semester at Baruch to train for the marathon, and got to run at Van Cortlandt Park, where my mom, who was a distance runner growing up, actually raced and competed. So being able to participate where my mom used to compete, that was in a sport that she used to compete in, that was awesome, and it was exciting to share that with her after each race.
Earlier you mentioned something about time management. So how were you able to balance school and athletics as a two-sport athlete?
Well, ironically, I think my grades were better during the actual sports season. So during the fall semester when I was playing soccer, I think you're just forced to be more regimented, and you were just constantly keeping yourself in check about when you're going to address the different things that need to be done, whether it's for school, whether it's nutrition, like what your meals are, planning your meals around when your games and training and practices are, sleep, everything is just a little bit more thought out because you need to. If you don't, you just, nothing gets done. Whereas in the springtime, when you maybe aren't as committed to something like a sport, you can kind of brush things off or maybe push things off to the next day a little bit easier. Not that, we get into habits of doing that, but it's definitely, I think it's easier to be regimented during your sports season. And then therefore, I think I speak for many people that your GPA ends up being better during those sports seasons.
Yeah, that makes total sense. If there was a day that you could relive as a Bearcat, what would it be and why?
Well, I alluded to the championship game. I'd say that was special. Though I guess the day I could relive that necessarily wasn't in the moment, a very happy day was my last soccer game ever, on a competitive level. We lost in the CUNYAC, I believe the semifinals, my senior year. And I remember being at Randall's Island, where I've had a lot of other good memories, but it was really bittersweet. It was hard to say goodbye to a game that, I love, but at the same time, if I could relive that memory of reminiscing all the good times that soccer ball has given me, since I was a little kid to then, I think that was really special too. Emotional, but very special.
Yeah, I remember that championship season. And was it Stevens that we played in the NCAA tournament? Is that the season we're to, where we went to New Jersey?
No, that was Muhlenberg that we ended up losing to in the NCAAs. Yeah, and there were some questionable offside calls that were in the beginning of the game that I think kind of set the tone for us to have a uphill battle. Not to make excuses, but for whatever it's worth, I ran into the referee from that game at a Red Bulls game, waiting to go through security about a year later. And we both discussed the games, and I ironically, at my fingertips, had the screenshots to some of the offside calls, and I pulled them up, and there was nothing that could be said from him that would fix a year later our NCAA game, but he definitely acknowledged how one could interpret the call as being a mistake. So, and Miles Bent, who was my team member at Baruch at the time, was actually with me for that, and is just a witness if we ever need to cross-reference that whole thing.
Yeah, I remember that game. I was out there. I remember it was very cold the night before the game. I remember it was like we went from the city where it was like the 50s, and you're working out in the morning. All of a sudden, now you go to Pennsylvania, and it's like 29 degrees. I remember that night.
Yeah, it would have been. It was bittersweet. We lost that one too, also because outside of it being the last game of the season, it would have been great to go to the next round and actually play my old school, Catholic University, which is where I transferred from. So it would have been cool to have been able to play and compete against some of my old friends and teammates, my old coach. But it's just not the way it shook out.
Justin, when you were at Baruch, I recall you did 5 internships, not to mention the fact that you were president of 2 organizations. So you were a very busy person. Tell us about your career today.
Yeah, so like many Baruch students and student athletes, interning and working during the school year and season is kind of customary. I interned at a bunch of different banks and financial institutions, the last one being Goldman, where I came back full-time and where I am now. So I interned about 5 years ago and been here ever since. My current role, I work helping different families, endowments, charities, and nonprofits manage their assets. And I sit on a 10-person team that does that exclusively for our clients.
We were just reminiscing on all of your times as a student athlete. Would you say you still follow the progress of the teams today?
I do. I follow Baruch athletics on social media, and then I also try to get to as many games and competitions as I can. Obviously with COVID, that's all been put on hold, but prior to that, I believe I was at the 2019 men's soccer championship, which I believe they won in Brooklyn. Is that correct, John?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a pretty exciting game now that I think of it. I think
was that the game where we were down 2-0, we came back to win?
Correct. Yeah, there were some pretty impressive comeback plays there that hopefully you could when we're cutting this and editing this, maybe you could show there was a few great goals to it at the end of the game that had the crowd, including myself, pretty pumped up.
So you made a lot of really great memories in your years at Baruch and being a student athlete. So what would you say you enjoyed the most about being a student athlete?
So at Baruch, it's no secret, it's a commuter school. So for those that are not involved in athletics or in other clubs, it can be pretty easy to just get tied up in your schoolwork, and you find yourself coming and going and, you know, maybe making connections, but you're not maybe making friends or, you know, establishing meaningful relationships with folks on a personal level outside of, you know, networking or helping with homework or projects. So I think being a student athlete at Baruch provides another level of being a kid and being a young adult that's learning about themselves and growing and maturing, and being able to apply kind of natural human interaction to a school that's maybe a little less normal with respects to the fact that it's a commuter school. So I think being a student athlete at Baruch is probably the best way to attend Baruch, in my opinion. There's no other way I'd want to do it. So much so that when I wasn't eligible to play soccer anymore after my 4 years, and I had my last semester, I made sure I ran cross country because I still needed an excuse to bug John and to be around Dima and Carrie in the athletic center.
Being that you were very involved in athletics, how has being a student athlete at Baruch College made you the person that you are today?
Well, it's forced me to not just deal with hard or difficult situations. You know, put it this way, Baruch, being in the middle of Manhattan, doesn't have, you know, a beautiful, well-cut grass soccer field right outside on the front lawn like a lot of other schools. So from a simple standpoint of just getting to practice at, you know, 6:45 in the morning, commuting over to the field, making sure that you have everything else for the rest of your day ready to go, because it's not like many folks that attend Baruch live right around the corner. There's just a lot of, there's a lot of responsibilities that you have as a student athlete at Baruch that you don't have to have when you're at another school. You know, we don't have a dining hall with a meal card that you just, swipe and, have a mindless meal. Everything you do and every step of your day is kind of planned out, and you very much so are an adult in every facet. I don't know if that answers your question all the way, but that's how I think about it.
No, first off, that was really a great answer, because, you're right. I mean, here you are, you're going to Baruch, you're getting up probably maybe 5:30 in the morning. You're catching a van to go to training. And then from training, you're going straight to the locker room, you're freshening up, and then you're going to class. And you're right. Like, I think you just said something that I think was very important, is that you had to have the rest of your day planned out. You had to have everything with you. And in a lot of ways, whereas let's say if Baruch was in this picturesque campus with rolling grass and everything, everybody just has to walk back to their room and get something. But at Baruch, you have to learn how to be an adult until you go home that night, probably at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So I think that's I like that description that you gave. And it should also be mentioned, as sports information director, that we have a lot of great student athletes. And one of the things that I liked about Justin is he got involved. He played soccer. He got up every day to go and practice. He did Baruch SAAC. He was president of SAAC, Student Athlete Advisory Committee, for those perhaps maybe that are not familiar with the abbreviation. And I remember me and you loading up the truck. I think it was for Thanksgiving. The City Harvest truck came.
City Harvest, yep.
And I remember me and you going outside to 24th Street on the corner. The truck was waiting for us, and we had like all these cans and everything. And you were a big part of that. So Justin, let me just say on behalf of my interns, Baruch College, the athletics, thank you so much for your time. We are so happy for your success. Obviously you always come back, and you're certainly a true Bearcat. And I think all of us hope that, maybe this fall, by the way, we'll have sports this fall, that we'll be able to see you out at Randall's Island. And maybe some of the magic that you've had at Randall's, maybe you'll bring it back to the team this fall in case we forgot it.
That would be nice. I don't think there's much more I could ask for than being able to come back and see a soccer game at Randall's Island. That'd be great.
Yeah. By the way, that game where you scored 2 goals, I remember that night when you talked about the rain. I'm still wet from that night. That's how much it rained. I think we were doing stats from the van.
That was a wild one. That was definitely one of the more rained out games I've played in. That I remember our halftime speech Penny gave, and it was in the bathroom because it was the only place that at Randall's was a weeknight game that had an open area to just speak to everyone, and we were all just like crowded around. Definitely not, COVID regulation spacing, and we were packed in trying to just get a game plan together, and we had all this energy, and it was very memorable. I feel like if I close my eyes, I feel like I'm there right now.
Yeah, those were great memories. And again, thank you for your valuable time. Thank you for passing
Shout
along.
out to Carrie and to Dima and to Penny and to Heather as well. Lots of great people. John is obviously goes without saying. Thank you for putting this together. Lots of good memories at Baruch and more to come. As an alumni, I look forward to coming back and seeing everyone and continuing the Bearcat legacy from student athletes like you guys.
Justin, thank you again. Thanks to Christine, Julia, Victoria for your questions. This has been another episode of Baruch Bearcats Alumni Chat featuring Justin Starrantino, who played soccer and ran cross country for us. And I want to thank everyone for coming on today. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you.